What does your favorite game genre say about who you are? Let's go inside your head. I'm in your head. My favorite games are the ones that invite us to explore, to contemplate, to take in a good story. So for me, that's titles like Uncharted, Limbo, Device 6, and The Room. Those games, collectively speaking, are my jam. But one of my struggles as someone who's supposed to like all types of games, I mean, this is called game show after all, is that certain titles, they just don't click for me. I recognize Dark Souls' excellence. I mean, we did a whole episode about it, but I find dying really, really frustrating. And you might be a StarCraft champ, but frankly, that's just not my thing. So this makes me wonder, I mean, as someone who thinks about games all the time, do the types of games that I enjoy express something deeper about who I am as a person? And how does that make me different from someone who loves Team Deathmatch or wants to play Tiny Tower to completion, which I would totally advise against. Now, this isn't just some pseudo-scientific gamer horoscope kind of thing. I genuinely believe that the games that we like show something about who we are. In sociology, there's something called the observer expectancy effect. That means that when someone's filling out a survey or taking a study, because they know they're being watched, they unconsciously give false results. But the nice thing about playing games is that you abandon all pretenses, right? It's not a test or a study or a questionnaire, it's just play. And that means that games can actually give you a lens into who you are as a person in real life. You're probably saying, hold up, in real life, I would never just throw someone from a moving car, get in, and then run them over with said car. But that's because the risks and rewards are not analogous. USC researcher Dimitri Williams' mapping principle states that all things being equal, our virtual actions often mimic those that we would make in real life. This isn't always conscious, but it is a version of you. Game designer and theorist Mark LeBlanc says that generally speaking, there are 8 types of fun that games are designed around. So this raises this bigger, better, more important question. What type of fun do you like, and what does that say about who you are? Let's say you find yourself moving to the rhythm of Dance Central, or you're jamming on a combo in Killer Instinct, or you really just like the look of Virtual Seattle and infamous Second Son. You are a high fidelity gamer. That means you use all 8 of your senses. Or there are 14. It depends on who you ask. You like rolling around the pieces from Settlers of Catan in your hand because you like the feel of the wood grain. Or when you step off of DDR, you enjoy feeling the pulse of your heart after a really strenuous round. You live by the words of Walt Whitman, the poet, and apparently a very good parent, when he said, do anything, but let it produce joy. But what if it's not the dance floor, but the eastern kingdoms of Azeroth that call you? There's probably a reason why you enjoy the Plane of Justice in EverQuest more than Prop Cycle. As a fantasy gamer, you acknowledge that virtual space is real too. In fact, we did a whole episode about it that I'm sure that you will love. Check it out, it's pretty good. Writer William Gibson had this great description of cyberspace, which would totally be any fantasy gamer's motto. He said that cyberspace is a consensual hallucination experienced daily by billions of legitimate operators. So totally get that like tattooed on your face or your arm or something. If The Last of Us was the best movie you saw last year, or you thought that Gone Home was the greatest use of FPS mechanics of all time, you qualify as a storyteller. You enjoy narratives of all shapes and sizes. You strongly believe in the words of writer Joan Didion, who said that we tell ourselves stories in order to live. I like that. But what if you live for demoralizing your foes in Titanfall, or slaying a beast in Dark Souls? That, my friend, makes you a challenger. Your desire to one-up any person at any time takes a wide variety of shapes, from Go to the green pitches of FIFA to just taking mini-golf a little bit too seriously.
What?
In the words of USC fighter Lyoto Machida, eventually you will break the cycle and overcome any obstacle. In Machida's case, that obstacle is somebody's face. But maybe you'd rather hang out with people rather than just demoralize them. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Do you think of your guildmates as brothers and sisters? Have you ever held a hot tub party in GTA Online? Do you enjoy chatting with people rather than warring with them in EVE? If you've answered yes to one of those questions, then you're probably a social butterfly. You enjoy the social aspects of games, sometimes more than the actual game itself. As C.S. Lewis once said, the next best thing to being wise oneself is to live in a circle of those who are. But let's say you're kind of a lone wolf. You want to explore the barrenness of virtual worlds all by yourself. You long to endlessly hunt the untamed veldt of rust or look at mysterious waterfalls and fjords. If this is you, then you're probably an explorer. You are inspired by the words of astronaut Mae Jemison Jamison, who you should absolutely check out on Wikipedia. She has the most amazing entries. She's an incredible person. Anyway, she said, some people feel very small when they think about space. I felt more expansive, very connected to the universe. Or maybe you just want to accessorize. You've been secretly stealing your cousin's copy of Style Savvy. That's okay, I won't tell anyone. Or you're spending endless hours tweaking your Catman avatar in Skyrim. You are a self-expressive type. In the words of Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky, to go wrong in one's own way is better than to go right in someone else's. But what if you view games as more of an accessory to your life? It's kind of like a persistent hobby rather than an isolated event. LeBlanc actually says that you're a submissive gamer, but don't worry, he doesn't mean that in a pejorative sort of way. It just means that when you find something, you stick with it, like defeating all 545 levels in Candy Crush Saga. You find camaraderie in the words of Cormac McCarthy, author of The Road, who wrote, "Keep a little fire burning, however small, however hidden." Keep in mind, these are not mutually exclusive. You can like the camaraderie of PlanetSide 2 while still enjoying the exploration of Fez. And it's not a Myers-Briggs test, it's just games. As for me, I would say I'm an explorer with a strong tendency towards storytelling and high-fidelity experiences. I mean, I started my career as a journalist at the Wall Street Journal, so you know, words. But I also wrote about music, so I enjoy the senses, and according to my Instagram, I try to travel as much as humanly possible. Of course, this isn't one-to-one, but understanding our gamer type does give us some insight into who we are in real life. And this is actually really, really important. Looking at games as that spectrum of fun allows us to empathize with other people who maybe have tastes that are different from ours. So when we run into them in the real world and they're doing something or playing a game that we don't really like or understand, we can just say, hey, that person's just a social butterfly explorer type. So what do you think? What does your favorite game genre say about you? Do the types of fun that I outlined actually match up with who you think you are in real life? Hash it out in the comments, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe. I will see you all next week. Hey there, I'm at PAX East asking people what the worst game of all time is. Let's see what they had to say. What's the worst game ever?
Leisure Suit Larry, Box Office Bus.
Mass Effect 3. I'm a great lover of the first two games. The ending itself, that killed it.
This is like a bad relationship, sort of.
Oh, the worst game of all time? I guess it would be the Ninja Turtles game.
Why is that?
Because they made it impossible to beat. Even the developers cannot beat that tank level.
Have you ever played E.T. for Atari?
I have watched many videos of it.
Maybe it's one of those that's so bad it's good things.
That's fair enough.
Just maybe to show people don't do this again.
Yeah, as a warning sign to future
kinda.
generations. Good answer, good answer.
It's got to be E.T.
E.T.?
I'd say that's a pretty solid candidate. I worked for Atari, and I got a chance to work on it. I think one reviewer said that he would rather play with his own poo than play this game.
Have you guys gotten Superman 64 yet?
You'll be the first one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was just terrible.
I'd say Flappy Bird.
Flappy? Yeah.
I mean, you gain
Why?
absolutely nothing from it. It's like worse than drugs.
Worse than drugs.
Don't do it.
Flappy Bird.
And yet you still play it.
Yeah, I can't help it. I don't think anybody can.
Would you describe it as worse than drugs?
Yes.
I think the E.T. game for the
E.T.
Atari back then.
What is the worst game of all time?
Pokemon.
Pokemon. That is ironic.
That is
Sonic 06.
that's pretty bad
Sonic
too.
06.
That's pretty bad.
Big rigs over the road racing.
Objectively.
It's just not a game.
It is Big Rig Racing.
Shaq Fu.
Does Shaq know this?
No, he does know this, and in fact, they have a Kickstarter to make a sequel.
E.T. for Atari is sort of the worst game of all time, but I actually kind of liked it as a kid.
E.T.?
Does Storm have a feud with E.T. that I don't know about?
No, it's really boring. I mean, I pop it in once in a while for nostalgia, and then I wonder, why did I do that?
The game that I'm the most angry at for existing is Secret of Evermore for Super Nintendo.
You don't strike me as an angry person.
I'm not an angry person.
When I was a kid and I got a Nintendo, a friend of mine bought me Faxanadu for my birthday, and I hated it and hated it and hated it.
What did you hate about it?
I never made it like more than 20 feet in the game, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Nintendogs?
Wait, did you say Nintendogs? Nintendogs. Why? Does Boba Fett hate dogs? Is that a thing?
No. I like real dogs.
You like real dogs. You appreciate real dogs. That's good to know. Even for a bounty hunter, you have a heart of gold.
Big rigs over the road racing. So I used to work at at the website GameSpot, and it was the first game we ever gave our lowest possible score to of 1.0 out of 10. Because
Why not
the
a
game,
0? Why not just do
because
the
the
whole...
score, because the system could not go any lower than 1.0.
So we didn't do our normal commenting thing this week because, well, PAX East, but we didn't want you to think that we had forgotten about you. We would never forget about you. A bunch of you left some amazing comments about your worst game experiences ever. We grabbed a bunch of those, we popped them into the description, some of our favorites, and we'd like you to go check them out. Thank you so much for commenting. We really appreciate it.
Between you and Mike Rignetto of Idea Channel, playing Smash Brothers, which character would you choose and who would win?
I would be Game & Watch, and I would win, and Mike knows why.
Money match.
Yeah, money match. Mike, you heard this. Meet me in the octagon. We're doing this.